All right, let's cut the crap and get right into this messed up shit. When you think World War One, you picture trenches in Europe, right? Not some sleepy town on the goddamn East Coast getting shelled by a German U-boat. But guess what? That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, history's full of surprises, and this one is a real mindfuck.
We're talking about Orleans, Massachusetts, July 21st, 1918. Beautiful beaches, charming cottages, probably a bunch of folks rocking those old-timey swimsuits, picture perfect summer day, right?
Right, until a goddamn German U-boat. U-156 shows up and ruins the party. This was no ordinary submarine either. This thing was captained by Richard Felt, a dude who clearly didn't give a shit about American neutrality.
This asshole rolls up on a tugboat in its little convoy like he's ordering takeout. We're talking the Tug Perth Amboy, a schooner called the Lansford, and a few barges just chilling, probably hauling some cargo.
And here's where it gets interesting. A U-boat off the coast of Cape Cod. What the hell were they doing all the way over here? Well, the theory is they were after a transatlantic cable.
Hold up. A transatlantic cable? What, like the shit they used to send telegrams?
Yeah, except this wasn't just some random telegraph line. This cable ran all the way from Orleans to Brest, France, carrying a vital military and diplomatic communications. Imagine the intel the Germans could have snagged. They had managed to cut that fucker.
So these crowds were playing some next-level spy shit, huh? Were they planning on torpedoing the whole goddamn convoy?
Not exactly. Instead of torpedoes, they decided to use their deck guns. You know, those big-ass cannons they used to blast other ships to smithereens. Apparently Felt wanted to send a message, not necessarily sink everything in sight.
Still, can you imagine being on that tugboat, just cruising along, minding your own business,
Yeah.
and suddenly, boom.
Deck guns firing. Talk about shit in your pants.
Oh, it would have been absolute chaos. The Perth Amboy was getting hammered. The schooner and barges were going down like dominoes. And amidst all this, you've got the Coast Guard rowing out in a tiny little surfboat to rescue the stranded sailors. Hold on. They rowed out there. Are you kidding me? These guys were rowing towards a goddamn U-boat firing deck guns. Talk about balls of steel.
Yeah, it's one of those only in America moments. But wait, it gets even better. 2 U.S. Navy planes show up, ready to kick some drumming ass, and their bombs don't explode.
You got to be fucking kidding me. Those bombs didn't explode. What a bunch of incompetent assholes. You'd think with a war going on, they'd have their shit together, right?
Well, sometimes the best laid plans go to shit. Anyway, after that little bombing fiasco, U-156 just dips back under the waves and escapes. No casualties, thankfully. But they left behind a hell of a mess. Shells all over the beach, sunken ships.
And just like that, Orleans became the only island-eye place in the entire continental U.S. to be shelled by the enemy during World War I.
Holy shit, right?
Pretty wild, isn't it? It just goes to show that you never know what history has up its sleeve.
Ha. We've got German U-boats off the coast of America, spy missions, exploding, or not exploding, bombs. This is some seriously fucked up shit.
It definitely makes you question what you thought you knew about World War I, doesn't it? You're goddamn right it does.
You know, this whole attack on Orleans wasn't just some random act of aggression. It was part of a much larger campaign by the Germans to disrupt Allied shipping. And so chaos.
So these assholes weren't just out for a joyride, huh? What exactly were they trying to accomplish by fucking with a little town like Orleans?
Think about it. World War I was a global conflict, and communication was key. That transatlantic cable we talked about, the one they were trying to cut, that wasn't just some random telegraph line. It carried vital information, military orders, diplomatic dispatches, financial transactions, you name it. Cutting it off would have been a major blow to the Allies.
Damn. So it was like a cyber attack, but old school style.
Exactly. They were trying to cripple the Allies' ability to communicate and coordinate. Plus, there's the psychological factor. A German U-boat attacking American soil. That sends a chilling message. It's like saying, we can reach you anywhere, anytime. You're not safe. Even on your own goddamn turf.
Yeah, imagine the headlines. German U-boat shells Cape Cod. Are we next? Oh my God. People would be shitting their pants.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just about the cable. U-156 was part of a larger U-boat campaign that was wreaking havoc on Allied shipping lanes. They were sinking merchant vessels, causing shortages, and generally fucking things up for the Allies.
So these guys were basically underwater pirates with a political agenda.
In a way, yeah. They were highly trained naval officers, following orders from the German High Command. But their tactics were ruthless, and they weren't afraid to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in warfare.
And what about this Richard Felt guy? What kind of asshole sails a U-boat across the Atlantic just to fuck with a bunch of fishermen in tugboats?
Felt was an interesting character. He was known to be a skilled commander, but also quite ambitious, and perhaps a little reckless. Some historians believe he was eager to prove himself, especially in this daring mission against North America.
Daring. More like batshit crazy, if you ask me. I mean, sailing a U-boat across the Atlantic to attack the U.S., that's some serious balls. Or maybe he was just a glory-hungry asshole.
Well, U-boats were technological marvels for their time. They could stay submerged for days, travel thousands of miles, and wreak havoc on enemy shipping. They were a real game changer in naval warfare.
Yeah. But imagine life on one of those things. Cramped quarters, the constant threat of depth charges, probably eating nothing but sauerkraut and stale bread for months on end. No thanks. I'll take a beach vacation any day.
It was definitely a tough gig, incredibly dangerous and psychologically taxing. Those guys were under immense pressure, constantly facing the risk of death. Imagine being trapped in a metal tube, hundreds of feet underwater, knowing that any moment could be your last.
Fuck that. So, let's talk about the aftermath of this whole Orleans attack. What was the reaction like in the U.S.? Did it scare the shit out of everyone?
It definitely sent shockwaves through the country. People realized that even with the vast Atlantic Ocean supposedly protecting them, they weren't immune to attack. The government responded by increasing coastal defenses, stepping up patrols, and tightening security measures.
Did it work? Did it stop those U-boat bastards from coming back?
Well, there were no more attacks on the U.S. mainland. But the threat remained real. U-boats continued to operate in the Atlantic, sinking ships and disrupting supply lines. It really pushed the U.S. Navy to step up their game, develop new tactics and technologies to hunt down and destroy U-boats.
So, basically, the attack on Orleans was a wake-up call. It forced the U.S. to take the U-boat threat seriously and get their shit together.
Exactly. It was a turning point in the war, both strategically and psychologically. It had a lasting impact on coastal communities like Orleans, which had to adjust to the reality that war could come to their doorstep.
It's mind-blowing to think about. One minute, you're enjoying a summer day on the beach. The next minute, you're dodging shells from a German U-boat. It's crazy how this whole U-boat thing went down. It really makes you think, you know? Like, how the hell did we not learn our lesson from this shit? I mean, fast forward a couple decades, and bam! Pearl Harbor, another sneak attack that caught us with our pants down. What the fuck is wrong with us?
Well, it's not like we didn't learn anything from the Orleans attack. The problem is that sometimes historical lessons are easier to learn than to apply. After World War I, there was this widespread desire to return to normalcy to avoid foreign entanglements. Isolationism became popular. A lot of Americans genuinely believed the oceans would protect them from any future attacks. They wanted to believe it couldn't happen again.
Yeah, but that whole oceans as a shield bullshit clearly didn't work out so well, did it? What about our military? You'd think after Orleans they'd be all over coastal defenses, radar, all that shit.
There were definitely improvements made, but the U.S. military went through a period of downsizing and budget cuts in the years between the wars. Plus, technology was changing so rapidly it was hard to predict what the next war would look like, let alone prepare for it.
So basically we just got complacent and assumed it wouldn't happen again. And then, boom, Pearl Harbor. It's like we never learned.
It's a classic case of history repeating itself, unfortunately. It shows how easy it is to become complacent, to underestimate potential threats, even when we have clear warnings from the past.
All right, let's wrap this up on a slightly less depressing note. Any final thoughts on this whole attack on Orleans thing? Any big mysteries left to solve, any unanswered questions?
One thing that still puzzles me is why U-156 decided to engage those ships off Orleans in the first place. Was it just a random opportunistic attack, or was there a deeper strategic reason behind it, and we might never know for sure?
Yeah, it's a historical cold case, just waiting for some history nerd to crack it wide open.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a secret Nazi logbook out there somewhere detailing their master plan to conquer Cape Cod.
Stranger things have happened.
True.
That.
All right, folks, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the attack on Orleans, German U-boats, spy missions, exploding, or not exploding, bombs, the fragility of peace. We've covered a lot of ground today, and hopefully you learned some shit you didn't know before. If you're looking to dive deeper into this crazy story, check out the book Attack on Orleans, the World War I submarine raid on Cape Cod. It's a wild ride. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and don't be a dumbass like those folks who thought the oceans would protect them forever.
History repeats itself, so pay attention and learn from the past.